Your movie, my movie, their movie, our movie. Your movie, my movie, their movie, our movie. Your movie, my movie, their movie, our movie. Yeah!
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Your Movie, My Movie with Dan and Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve. In this episode, we're talking about one of Dan's picks, the 2012 movie For Ellen, directed by Yong Kim. We will be talking about spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie first, now's the time to do so. But before we talk about the movie, Dan, who would you recommend this movie for?
I think I would recommend it to, I don't know, people who are into slow indie movies that don't necessarily go places quickly. The people who are into painfully awkward movies. Yeah, so like I don't know, preteens to, maybe not preteens. I'm sorry, teenagers to, I don't know. My mom watched this movie. I watched this with my mom the first time we watched it.
We all know how teenagers love slow movies nowadays.
Well, yeah, but like, I don't know. I liked slow movies as a teenager, but I don't know. I guess people who are into artsy fartsy movies, but not even that. It's not even that artsy fartsy. I don't know what I recommend this one to. I guess. Oh, okay. Here we go. I got a good one. Toxic boyfriends who don't know they're toxic.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
Okay, I would recommend this to people who are glad that they don't live in the Midwest. Because after watching this movie, you'll still be glad that you don't live in the Midwest.
That's absolutely valid. I watched it though, and I missed the snow, and I missed the cold and the cornfields and the nothing. Yeah, but that's just me.
That's a very good way of putting it. The cold, the cornfields, and the cows, and the nothing.
Yeah, I didn't have to grow up in the Midwest though. I was born there, and I would visit. It's a much nicer place to visit than to grow up, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, watching this movie, it reminded me of a Gertrude Stein quote. There's no there.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a very heavy subtext of that in this movie.
Yeah. Which I like movies that are like that, where you almost feel trapped just by the environment or, by watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a movie where you do sort of feel trapped. Not as much as other movies, but some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure.
How do you want to get into it? Just start talking about...
Well, let's start with the opening image.
Yeah.
This movie stars Paul Dano.
Yes.
And he plays a character named Joby Taylor.
Yes.
What's the opening image, Dan?
The opening image is a street sign with like a double arrow going either direction. I don't know what that sign means other than, there's no way forward. It's to the left or to the right.
Yeah. It's telling you that this movie's about choices.
Yeah. And
it really is.
And then, we see Paul Dano, driving, smoking a cigarette, and, singing along to the radio. Very dark, sort of, dark opening. But that's the opening shot, which I think, sets up the film pretty well.
Okay. So then what happens?
So then he's driving and, he's talking on the phone, I believe. And his car, which is like I love the car because it's my brother had that car. It's like a early 2000s Impala. Anyways, it's a great car. It's a piece of crap car, but yeah. Anyways, he's driving the car and it's snowing and the roads are slushy. So he's distracted by a sandwich he's eating. Oh yeah. Oh wait, I wrote some stuff down. Okay, yeah. He's driving, he's eating the sandwich, and he's like touching this like paper thin goatee that he has.
Oh,
just
a soul patch. It's a soul patch.
The
That's what they call them.
stringiest soul patch. Yeah. And then, so he crashes basically. He whips the car around. He doesn't crash it too badly though, but he's in the snow and he's just like bewildered. And then, he gets towed into town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gets towed into town, and I think he goes right to the. Where do we go? I'm sorry. Oh, he's talking on the phone still, in the middle of the road. We learn that he's on his way to.
We don't learn much at the beginning.
Yeah.
This movie takes a while to tell you the full picture of what's going on.
So he gets out of the car though. He's still on the phone, and he's sort of upset, but he's like. He's dressed. The costume is amazing.
Yeah, it is a great
the
costume.
only thing he wears for the entire movie. It's like this leather jacket with like afflicted, like an affliction type brand leather jacket with like a cross on the back, and he's got long hair and like ear piercing and like a ton of annoying rings. It's 2012, so it's like a 2012 rock star who wants to be a rock star.
Well. This is the very interesting thing about this movie is because it's like, where does this take place in time? Because the thing is like, I found it so weird. And
really?
Yeah, well, the thing that I need to bring up is that this movie came out in 2012.
Okay, yeah.
As did the movie Rock of Ages. Because
what is Rock? I don't even know what Rock of Ages is really.
Rock of Ages, it's a movie. It's a musical directed by I think the guy who did Glee. Okay, and so it's a jukebox musical.
Yeah,
and it's based all on 80s metal music. Okay, like Journey and all of those.
Yeah, hair metal.
Well, not just hair metal. Okay, generic. Mostly hair metal, but 80s metal. Okay, let's just put it at that and not get into any arguments. All right. Yeah. And so like Tom Cruise was in that movie. Okay, and it's like everybody else in that movie, all the actors, they're just having fun going along with it for camp. Yeah, but like Tom Cruise, like he gets method with it.
That sounds insane.
Yes, it is an insane movie, and the reason why I brought this up is because Paul Dano's character. Paul Dano's character feels like Tom Cruise's character if he was younger, but like God, and they wanted to make a drama out of Tom Cruise character. Yeah, just that. They took the character from this one movie, and they decided to make an artsy independent drama out of his character, and this is what they would come up with, but they couldn't get an actor the right age for when hair metal was big. Yeah, so they got younger actors. Because I'm like, what? When was hair? When was?
Why are we talking about hair metal?
Because it's important to me. I found this very, very weird. Because hair metal, that is a certain place and time. It was big in a certain place and time. Yeah. And that's the kind of band he has, right? That's what I get out of it. I thought he was like in a hair metal band from the 80s because of the way he acts, the way he dresses, and the way that he plays his music on the jukebox.
I saw it as well, he plays Whitesnake on the jukebox.
Oh, okay.
Which is, 80s metal.
Well, then we're just going to cut all this out. Because I only know two Whitesnake songs, and they didn't play either of them.
We don't have to cut it out. I don't know Whitesnake either.
We'll see.
I only know that because I watched this movie like 5 years ago and looked up the song.
Well, okay. Because, that's what I thought that was so weird about it.
Oh, okay. Because he thought it was his song on the jukebox.
Yeah, and he seems like he's an 80s hair metal guy because of the way that he dresses. And, the name of his band is Snake Temple. And it's like, that's a totally 80s hair metal band, name. So
I read this as like, because I've seen people in bands from 2012 era and earlier, and it was like very much like emo pop punk type music. I'm assuming his was more like
probably post grunge is what I'm thinking, kind of like Creed or Nickelback.
Yeah,
but, because we don't get listen to his songs, we wouldn't know.
Yeah,
So.
but he does play a song on guitar and sing, and it's very much more singer-songwriter. Yeah, it's like Chris. It's grungy. It's grungy.
Right.
But he's dressed like someone who goes to Hot Topic.
well, I think he's dressed like someone in a hair metal band. So that's where my confusion lay throughout the entire film.
Okay.
So
that's fair too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's much more in the 2000s than the 80s hair metal, but I don't know. Anyways. He wears a leather jacket and saggy pants, black pants, and he's got his chipped nails painted black and his 27 bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you very much who he is. Anyways, so he's talking on the phone, and then I guess he calls the tow truck. Then let's see. Okay, so yeah, and while he's driving, he's putting like eyeliner or something. I don't know, mascara in his goatee. That was like a nice little detail.
I love that part. It's not a goatee. It's a soul patch.
Yes, I'm sorry, soul patch.
It's a soul patch.
Yes.
It's even lamer.
And he can barely grow that. Yeah. It's so funny. Okay, so then I think it goes right to the meeting with his lawyer. So he's in a room with, oh man, what's her name? I think it's Claire.
Yeah.
So he's in a room with Claire, his lawyer, and Claire's lawyer, and they're talking about signing papers.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get to that, who plays Joby's lawyer?
John Heder.
Yes.
AKA Napoleon Dynamite. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I love him in this movie.
He's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
He cannot not be funny. You know what I mean? But he's not like a fool or an idiot in this movie. He like really underplays, the comedy, which makes it even better. Ever
since I saw this movie, I was like sad for John Heder because like everyone thinks of him as Napoleon Dynamite and casts him as Napoleon Dynamite. He's like, dude, you're Napoleon Dynamite, dude. Anyways, I think he can do other things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. God, he was so great in this movie.
Yeah, he was.
if anything, watch this movie for John Heder.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And see, his range, but also his comedic range, because he's really funny in this movie. But this is a movie that needs some comedy in it.
Yeah. It was actually pretty funny this time around, the whole movie, or most of it. But yeah, so that's his lawyer, and we'll get to him later too.
Okay.
There's great scene.
Incredible scene. So the best setup in all of cinema to that scene.
I don't know about that, but
I'll stake it.
Yeah, you'll stake it. Okay. Yeah. So they're in this office. It's very like claustrophobic feeling. I think we view it through a window in the beginning.
Well, that's another thing about this movie is it's all close-ups.
Yeah.
It's either a close-up or a cutaway to stock footage.
Or extreme wides, yeah.
Yeah, big establishing shots. Yeah.
But there are some full shots, but not many, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say like 90% of this movie is nothing but close-ups.
Yeah.
Which I hear that like a lot of indie movies will do, so you don't focus, so you can't see like the flaws in the the set or the scenery. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that as much. And also, because this movie is a drama, you want those close-ups in order to convey those emotions, which this movie really does.
Yeah.
So,
and to like get in touch with that character, well, like not get in touch, to empathize with that character,
yeah, exactly.
Almost immediately, even though he's a piece of shit, which we'll get to later.
Yeah,
but yeah, so he's in this meeting and they're wanting him to sign. He just got into town, and they're.
When do we find out what he's signing?
I thought we found out pretty much right away.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're talking about, would you like? They're asking him, are you ready to sign right away, or and John Hader's character is like, well, he needs the time to read it, and things like that. But he's focusing on Claire, who we find out is his, estranged wife. They're talking about signing divorce papers.
Yeah.
And we don't find out the details of the divorce papers, just that they're divorce papers. So he's like, I'm not ready to sign it yet, and he's trying to talk to Claire, but her lawyer is like, no, we would ask you to not speak to our client except through me. She's doing this as a courtesy to you because you wanted her to be here for the signing.
Yeah. He's like, you don't talk to my client. You talk to your lawyer. Your lawyer talks to me, and then I'll talk to my client, and then my client will talk to me, and I'll talk to your lawyer, and your lawyer will talk to you. And then he's like, he goes to his lawyer, and he's like, will you ask him to ask her if we'll meet for a cup of coffee? And he does it.
Yes, John Heder does it. Oh, it's so good. But like that whole conversation, they're in like a maybe 8-foot wide room. It's a tiny room.
Yeah, it's a very tiny room.
Very claustrophobic. And he's like, he's trying to talk to her, and he's like, he's like trying to get her to talk to him, basically.
Yeah. You can tell that he's trying to manipulate her.
Yes, immediately.
Yeah, get her alone so that he can manipulate her.
Yes. He's like, and then he talks out loud, and she's like, basically, I don't want to talk to you. And he does that annoying thing where he's like, would you ask your client to ask? Yeah, it's very, it's just so petty, like right off the gates. But then he goes and he follows her out to the parking lot. He doesn't take no for an answer at all.
Yeah.
Immediately follows her out to the parking lot and is like, just listen to me. Why don't you talk to me for Ellen's sake? Is like immediately using
the title drop. That's a title drop.
Yeah.
For Ellen's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And immediately using what we find out is their daughter.
Yeah.
As leverage for like points in their conversation. But he's like, he like talks about like, show me some respect or something like that. And anytime someone's like, well, I feel like you're disrespecting me or things like, it's like, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. He's got the most like punchable face in this movie. Anyways, he then like whines. She doesn't want to talk to him. She rolls up the window and she's getting in her car and he's trying to stop her. He then like kicks her car and calls her the C word and like sulks back to his hotel. Yeah. So then he's in the hotel. Yeah. So he's in the hotel and he's listening to music on his headphones and he's like getting really into the music. But I love this. He's like headbanging until he like knocks the headphones off his head because he's headbanging too hard. Yeah. It's just like the most goofy, awkward white guy dancing, and like he barely has rhythm. It's tough to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm sorry. I wrote down bar playing pool. Oh yeah. So he goes to the bar and he starts playing pool and he basically picks up a lady, which is this like freaked me out is Dakota. Oh man, what's her name? Johnson. Dakota Johnson.
Oh, Dakota Johnson.
Yeah, and she's in it for like 3 seconds. But basically they hook up in another room of the bar and he sleeps over with her. He wakes up, I don't know if it's in his hotel room or her room, but he's getting a call from his lawyer. And his lawyer breaks the news that he's signing for a settlement, 50% of the settlement of the house that him and Claire bought, his wife, in order to give up custody of his daughter Ellen.
Yeah.
So that's when we find that out.
Well, first he gets a call from the lawyer, and then they meet at like a diner or something.
Oh yes,
and then that's when they have that conversation, and that's what you find out what the stakes are.
Yes.
Where as you said, he gets 50%. Basically, I think his soon-to-be ex-wife will pay him half the value of the house, but in return, she wants him to give up all custodial rights to his daughter.
Yeah, and he's like, well, it's like my house, isn't it? And his lawyer is like, you didn't pay any mortgage fees or child support at all, did you? And he was like, well, I tried. I tried to.
Yeah. It comes up with all these excuses. And, oh my God, over half over half of Americans won't be able to watch this because it's about divorce. I mean, I hate to be blunt about it, but I mean, it's true.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's also like young people divorce.
Yeah,
which is interesting too. But like in that breakfast scene with his lawyer, they're having coffee or whatever, and he's like, "You're my lawyer. Isn't there something you can do?" It's just like it's constant like just blaming everyone else. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
But I love how I love Paul Dano. His acting in this is pretty good. In some parts, it's a little bit like it's just I imagine acting in this movie, and I imagine that it would be hard in certain scenes.
Well, I have a question to you about that.
Mm-hmm.
At any time did you see, Joey Taylor and not Paul Dano?
I think. I don't know. I think he did sort of these. I don't know. I haven't seen, I guess, much of Paul Dano himself.
Okay.
I listened to a few interviews, but like, I think he did a good job of sort of being a different version of himself, a more like whiny and irresponsible version of himself. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I always saw him as Paul Dano myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, but that's like really tough for any actor to do, especially when you're a well-known actor and people will go to see your movies just to see you. John Heder. I did not see John Heder. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But that's also because his role was so different from what we're used to.
Yeah. I mean,
I even asked, is that Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
This is an indie movie and it's got, the guy from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
So, I think Paul Dano, he did, act. I think he acted as best as he could. I'm not going to call Paul Dano a bad actor or anything.
Yeah.
I just, kind of making a point here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. Yeah. I think also, like, I don't know. I felt like I did see the character whenever he's interacting with the daughter and he does not know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's when...
that feels a lot more unscripted than everything else in the movie.
Well, there's a few parts in this movie that feel like the director just told him to do his best and make a scene, like to improv, I feel like. And that's always really tough to watch because improving is not easy. Yeah. It's not easy for dramatic stuff usually at all. It just deteriorates very quickly unless you're really good at it.
Yes, there's a huge difference between reciting the line you're given and then trying to make up lines.
Yes, on the spot. Yeah. Because
actors are not writers.
Well, I think he is a writer, and
even so, like even in the spot, because most scripts, they get looked at, they get feedback and all that stuff. So that ask actors to improv. That can be rough. And I mean, there's a difference between playing with the lines you're given and making up lines on the spot too.
Yeah.
Because with my second Mopix movie, we had a lot of fun because we had the actors were playing, they were basically in a scene, a man and a woman, and the subtext was that the man cheated on his wife basically.
Yeah.
And we played that a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Where, we played it, more for melodrama. And then we played it for where, she was angry that, he cheated on her. And then we played it where he couldn't give less than a shit on his wife. But even though we played with the emotion of the scene, the lines are all the same.
Yeah. And as an actor, like it's freeing to have lines because you don't have to think about what you're going to say. You already know what you're going to say. And all you have to think about is how you're saying those things.
Right, exactly.
But if you're improving, you have to think about what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and what that means. And if it's doing what the script has to do. It's just really tough. I don't know for sure if they were improving, but there's one scene I'm pretty sure he had to do some improving at.
I bring that up when we come to it.
Okay, yeah. I don't know exactly where it is. But let's see.
Okay. So yeah, we learned about the stakes, and the next thing that I have written is that he goes to the house, and and he looks through the window,
Yes.
and he sees his daughter
At the dinner table
Yeah.
with maybe the Claire's boyfriend or fiance or whatever, and Claire around the dinner table, and it's like, a happy family,
Yeah.
very like Midwest house. It's a very nice house, like a 2-story. Yeah. And it's very like peaceful looking,
Right.
and he's very much outside. So he's just creeping through the window.
Yeah.
So then he calls up his lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, I want to do something with my daughter.
Alone.
Yeah, alone. And John's
It's not that creepy.
No, it's not that creepy. And then John Hader's character is like, well, what exactly do you mean? Or what do you want to do? And he's like, I just hang out with her and things like that.
No, he goes, I want to do something with my daughter alone. Like what? I don't know, man. Like whatever fathers and daughters do. So it's like he doesn't. And then he goes, why does Claire get everything? It's not fair. And it's like, yeah, so much to unpack right there. It's like he doesn't even know how to be a dad.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to be an adult.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't even know. He doesn't know what fathers and daughters do because he's never been a father. He's never been a dad. That's what we're supposed to get from that scene. And then, why does Claire get everything? That shows his entitlement.
Yes.
Right there. Because, when you give birth and become a parent, if you want that kid to love you, you got to put that time in.
Yeah.
I know this from experience and, living, as I have for 4 decades, over 4 decades, if you're soon to be parent or ever want to become a parent, this is my advice to you. I am not a parent myself. But my advice still is put in the time, because if you don't, your kids won't know you.
Yeah. And like being a parent, I don't know anything about it either, but what I've seen from my parents is just endless sacrifices for your kid, like over and over. You're just putting up with so much crap. Yeah.
Well, that's another theme, like throughout this movie. And, it is sacrifices.
But he's such a selfish character. It's like, it's just
well, it gets a little complicated because, moving just a bit ahead, we find out that the reason why he wants the money from the house is, I guess, so he can fund a new album for his band.
Oh.
Right. That's when he's talking to,
yeah, I don't know if it's
his bandmate, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the scene I was thinking was improv.
Oh,
just because he stutters so much, and it's like, it's a difficult. That was difficult for me to watch just because I felt like it was improv, and that's always really tough. But yeah, so we find out that he's not happy with Paul Dano's character isn't happy with how it's sounding, and he wants to re-record everything.
It's really interesting because he tells his bandmate or whoever he's talking to, the tracks are too sleek and they need some real shit. So it's like, basically what he's saying is his music is not genuine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, which is funny because, what I get from that scene is, we call him, you call him a piece of shit, but I think that this scene is what gives him depth. Because what he did was, the opening image, the arrow signs in the road.
Yeah.
You can go one way or the other. He could have gone the way where he was a father, or he could have gone the way where he was a professional musician. And he chose a professional musician.
Yeah.
And, he seems to be, really passionate about that. He really wants to make music, because if he didn't care, he wouldn't care that the music's sleek, you know? But he seems to care. And so it's like, so that like explains to me like a lot of what's going on. He's not a good father, but you said, as a parent, you have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Well, as an artist, you have to sacrifice because you never know when you're going to make it big. You never know if you're going to make it big, and you have to make your art. You have to love it so much to sacrifice for it, even if you don't get anything like monetarily in return.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, being a parent is sacrifice, but being an artist is sacrifice as well. And it's like, well, what's more important to you?
Yeah.
And for him, it was his art, it was his music.
Mm-hmm.
And he's seeing the consequences of that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, absolutely. But he still has like just a massive ego. Like he's talking on the phone with his bandmate and he's like, I'm the front man.
Yeah. I'm fucking Joey Taylor. I am Snake Trouble. I'm the front man. You can't get rid of me. Yeah. And I wrote down, I'm like, if Van Halen got rid of David Lee Roth, they'll get rid of you.
Yeah. It's like that scene in School of Rock where he's like, I was like, how can you kick me out from what is mine? It's like, it's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah, that's another lesson for you artists. You are all replaceable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Also, I just love the flip phone he's talking on the entire movie. It's the most annoying, but like it's a nice little flip phone, but like it has the most annoying ringer.
Well, he really aged this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the next scene, he's going to the mall and he's looking for something to buy Ellen. And that was like a cool shot to me just because he's just in this like mall amongst toys and it's a still frame almost. And he's just staring at this stuff and just doesn't know what to buy.
Yeah, because he doesn't know her.
Doesn't know her at all.
Doesn't know what she likes. And
doesn't know what little girls like in general. So he goes to the mall, he comes out with a bag, and he can't get into his car, like the key was stuck, and he like kicks his car, and finally gets in. Yeah, that's all I have written for that. But
and then I have in the next scene you can see him at his hotel.
Yeah.
And that's when he was working on a song and strumming it and singing it and working on the lyrics and so forth.
Yeah. And I mean it's pretty like the chords he's using are pretty basic and stuff, but it does sound pretty nice, and he has a decent voice. I mean, I know Paul Dano does music as well, but it's just interesting because he's not awful or anything like that. It's not like a pitiful thing to watch. It is interesting. You can see he cares about it and he spends time doing it.
Yeah,
that was an interesting little scene.
Yeah, what I got from it is that angst feeds creativity. It's kind of difficult sometimes. If you're an artist and you don't have angst, what are you going to make real art about? It's like, how could Rod Serling make The Twilight Zone if he was a happy person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How could anybody make their great works of art if they were happy?
If they went to therapy.
Yeah.
I was literally having a conversation with my friend about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
So, I think it's kind of interesting, that he's going through this turmoil of, finalizing the divorce and then finding out that he has to give up all of his rights to his daughter, even though, he hasn't done anything to support her or, even visited her. But, at that place in time, he's able to create.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that scene's about, just showing that angst feeds creativity. Yeah.
Well, then he gets a call from his lawyer. I think his lawyer's name is Frank.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's like, I got some good news and some bad news. And he's like, what do you want to hear first? And Joby is like, I want to hear the bad news. And he's like, you can't see Ellen. And if you don't sign the documents by tomorrow, they're going to take you to court. And then Paul Dano's character is like, Joby is like, that means that no settlement, right? And he's like, yeah, no settlement at all. And he's like, well, what's the good news? And Frank, the lawyer, is like, the good news is my mom's making lasagna and we wanted to have you over tonight. Paul Dano just hangs up the phone, doesn't answer.
That's such a Midwestern thing.
Yeah, it's like this random lawyer in the middle of nowhere is just like, well, and it's John Hader's voice, so it's very much like, oh well, we wanted to have you over for dinner tonight. I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah, it's a very funny moment that you're not expecting.
no.
No.
And then what surprised me was he showed up.
Yeah,
to dinner,
he shows up,
which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But he follows through, and in the driveway though he hesitates again, which I thought was a kind of cool thing. It's again that he doesn't really fit in to like a family at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what type of family situation he had, growing up. That's not really gotten into, but you can tell it doesn't sit right with him. And as soon as he walks in,
Yeah,
it's immediate, like completely out of place.
yeah.
And you can tell like the Frank the lawyer is like an only child. They have the pictures on the wall, and Joby looks at them like kind of grins and chuckles and makes fun of him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Frank's mom is like very welcoming and stuff.
She is such a mom character.
It's so good. She immediately like welcomes him, and but like it's funny because Frank like apologizes about his mom.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just funny.
Well, she's like, oh yeah, well, what do you do? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm a singer. And he's like, yeah, are you seeing any girls?
Are you dating anyone?
Yeah, how's that going?
Mm-hmm.
She just asks him questions, after questions, and he's politely answering with as minimal of a response as he can.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have, it's just so awkward.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, I forget like the ins and outs of it, but
yeah. Well, that's basically it.
Yeah.
And then Frank the lawyer, he asked Joby to like, come look at his, I guess his room.
Yeah, he's just showing him around the house. He shows him
around the house.
He's like, yeah, it's pretty nice, man, I guess.
Yeah.
He still lives with his mom and stuff. But he finds a CD of Joby's band.
Yeah, Snake Temple.
Snake Temple. That's so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he's like, oh yeah, I listened to it. He's like, I found it at a garage sale, picked it up, listened to it. There's a really cool song in there. It's oh man, wait, I see. I've written down. Basically, Frank asks him about this one song, and Joby kind of like sneers almost. He's like he grimaces and he's like, oh yeah, everyone loves that song. It's just like it's like the pretentiousness of whenever like big bands have their hit and they don't want to play it anymore. It's like it's that type of thing, but it's like this is a nobody artist that no one really listens to in the first place.
Oh yeah.
It just felt it was annoying.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that kind of confused me because I wasn't sure if Joby and his band. I wasn't sure if they're a has been or if he's a never was. So that kind of confused me a little bit because what I got from that is he says that album has our best stuff, and what I kind of get from that is like his golden years are behind him. His best material he already used up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I really got from that.
Yeah. I think that's fair too, but I don't think it was super successful even then.
Right.
Like he might have gotten some gigs and some money, but he's driving like a 2002 Impala now, and you can tell he doesn't have money like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then Frank wants to play the album. He's like, no, absolutely not. And it's just like it's so just I don't know how to describe it when people are just so like uncourteous in conversations and just so socially arrogant. I don't know. It's just really painful to watch because John Hader's just trying so hard to like be nice to the guy, and he's just like cold shouldering him every step of the way.
Well, that makes me wonder something about Frank's character. It's like, did Frank used to be a fan?
I don't know. I maybe. Yeah, maybe.
And so like let's just imagine that Frank was a fan, so then maybe it wasn't his mom who invited him for dinner. Maybe Frank was like, hey mom, can we invite Joby Taylor from Snake Temple over for dinner tonight? I'm representing his divorce case.
That would be hilarious. I don't know. I felt like he was too much of a goody two shoes. Because that's part of Frank's character. Is he's a complete goody two shoes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he could be like one of those really nice guys who, like, the reason why they're so nice is because they get all their hate and rage out is through like heavy metal music.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. That could be true. I'm not sure.
Ambiguity in this film. It's so deep.
It's so deep. Well, anyways, Joby is like, "Hey man, do you want to go out and get a beer?" And like you can tell, Frank is like delighted by this. He's like, "Oh yeah, really? Yeah, for sure."
But he's such a goody two shoes. It's like he doesn't go to bars.
Yeah.
He doesn't even drink at home.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The first thing he says is, "Sure, let me go tell my mom."
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they're at the bar, and Joby buys like him a beer and then like 2 shots, and he's like, "You want another beer, man?" And he's like, "Nah, I can only drink one." And then he's like, "All right, you sure you don't want one of these shots?" And he's like, No. And then Joby takes one of the shots, and he's like, "Actually, could I have the other one?" He's like, "No, I kind of want the shot now."
Most of the comedy, 98% of the comedy comes, at this point, and, with his interaction with John Heder. Yeah.
It's so cringy.
Yeah, it's very awkward. But John Heder underplays it so well. But also Paul Dano too. Like they played off each other like so well. In this regard.
And just basically Joby's just still complaining about how useless Frank is as a lawyer, how he can't do anything for him, even though there's nothing he can do in the first place, or anyone would be able to do. But he goes out for a smoke. And,
before that, just quickly, there was that really long scene of Joby dancing.
I thought that was after they came back inside.
I thought that was before.
Okay. Either way, he does like this. He plays a Whitesnake song on the jukebox, and this is like a pivotal scene to me. It's so awkward because it's just this. It's like maybe the widest shot of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's just of this dingy bar corner with like a weird jukebox, and it's Joby in a wife beater, or no, he's wearing his normal clothes.
Yeah,
but he's like dancing and singing the song, and Frank's character is like, "Oh, what song is this? I like it." Joby doesn't answer at all. He's just like he's just giving them all the gift of his performance of this lip sync. And he's just convulsing and, doing the same dance he was doing in the mirror, basically. Trying not to basically do finger guitar. It's really tough to watch, though. But, like, you can tell, actually, it is interesting, though, because, like, after a while, he gets into it, and it's weird how much he gets into it. It's, like, very alienating. Like, anyone watching would be weirded out completely. Like he gets on the floor at one point, or he's like in a trance. He puts himself in a trance. But when I watched this the first time, it was much more like moving to me. I guess I thought it was like weird. Like I thought it felt like he had sold part of his soul to the music or something weird like that.
Interesting.
It just didn't feel normal at all. But yeah, that was an interesting scene, and it goes on for a very long time.
Yeah,
it's very tough to watch.
Yeah, and it cuts from the full frame of Joby dancing to the medium close up of John Heder just watching him.
It's like, well, this is weird. It's so cringy.
Yeah. But that's probably the point. Point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So then they go outside because he wants to smoke. And John Heder follows him out to smoke, and Paul Dano's in his like emo hour, just like skulking and smoking, and Frank the lawyer is like, "Can I bum a cig?" He's like, "Yeah, here you go," and he hands him a cigarette, and he starts to light it, and he's like, "Oh no, I just wanted to hold it."
What are the chances that Frank was homeschooled?
As a homeschooler, I can tell you it's 97.9%.
Okay.
Yes. That woman did not want her son to be corrupted by public. Oh man, it's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. But I watching it, I was like, this is. I am like this in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I just want to hold cigarettes sometime to feel cool. It's so pitiful. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that was hilarious, and I remember that from when I watched it like 5 years ago. So funny.
it's so great.
Oh my gosh.
And if they got any other actor to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's perfect for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I have. So then he goes back inside, and I have it that he did the performance then, but I don't know if it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But basically, he goes and he vomits in the bathroom. After,
Frank decides to leave
Yeah.
because it's late and he needs to get up for work the next day and he needs to, he doesn't want to worry his mother.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the movie, but we know that that's why Hank leaves at that moment.
Well, also it's because Joby is like, Frank asks Joby like, are you okay? Do you need anything? And Joby's like, yes, I'm fine. He's like, can't you tell that I want you to leave? It's just like, just very like completely brutal. This guy invited him into his home, was trying to be welcoming, and is just a complete asshole.
Yeah.
So then he goes into the bathroom, pukes into the toilet for a very long time.
Probably because he's so drunk at this point.
Yeah. And then he like falls on the floor of this dingy, disgusting bar bathroom. And he's like whimpering. And then he gets up and he like spits out like a chunk of, I don't know if he actually threw up, but it was nasty. He just spit into the toilet and then a spit on the floor. And then he pulls out his phone and makes a drunk phone call.
And this is when we get the third act twist.
Which is he calls Claire and he's like, I don't know why you won't let me see Helen. This is so unfair. I was the one that wanted her in the first place. You didn't want to keep her. I still have, if you won't let me see her, I still have the papers from the clinic in Chicago, and I'll use them in order to get, what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, basically earlier in the movie, Frank tells Joby that, Joby's going to lose the custody case unless he can find a reason why Claire isn't a good mother.
Yeah, to like defame her character.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, he has medical records saying that she wanted to get an abortion. And he says abortion. He makes it plain and clear what he's going to do if he's not able to see Claire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, I'm not afraid to use it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the next morning, wait, I thought there was a fly. Did we get to the fly?
That was earlier.
Oh, dang. That's like my favorite scene. I can't believe I forgot that. We'll talk about that later, I guess. Or can I talk about it right now?
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
There was a scene earlier on, I think it's his first night in the hotel.
That was before, that was before he went to sign the papers right at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I have it here, like it really reminded me of Aeon Flux, which was a cartoon in the 90s on MTV. And it was a sci-fi cartoon. And what it did was, it's a very weird TV show, animated, sci-fi kind of stuff. One of the opening shots is that, there's a whole title sequence, and the sequence ends when a fly like lands on her eyeball, and then she closes her eyelashes around it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's like that, this part really reminded me of that. But the fly does not go near his eye.
No. So he's asleep, and it's these macro close-ups. Just like super tight focus. Like you can see his pores basically. And his eyes are closed. You can't barely tell what part of his body the camera's focused on. But then we see the fly, and it goes into his ear and wakes him up. But like that was a scene that it's just really well shot. It's just completely like anxiety inducing. And I think that has a lot of like symbolism for the movie in general. I don't know. It's like, to me, it's somehow related to his music in a weird way.
Absolutely. I got that subtext too, that symbolism as well.
But so he pukes on the floor. He threatens her with the abortion papers. The next morning, Ellen calls him and wakes him up out of bed, his daughter. And he's like, oh, shit. And he like rolls out of bed. I'm sorry, crap or whatever. And he's like, how are you doing? What's going on? And basically she says that she can see him. He's like, okay, well, when and where should I pick you up? She's like, I'll ask my mom. She goes and asks her mom, and yeah, she tells him that she can come see him for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets ready. He takes a shower and cleans himself up. And I just wrote down very large letters, fingerless gloves.
Yeah.
He makes sure to put on his fingerless gloves before he leaves the hotel room.
Yeah.
The lawyer, Claire's lawyer, answers the door. And basically, he tells him to take his shoes off. And he basically goes over the rules of seeing Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, a simple, friendly family visit.
Yeah.
No talking about you and Claire's past. No danger to to Ellen in any way or anything. And Joby is like indignant about that.
Yes.
He's like, what do you think of me? And then the lawyer continues is no making fun of Claire. And he's got 2 hours to be with Ellen because she's got a piano lesson in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so,
And the thing is like, he never talks to Claire herself. He only talks to the lawyer at this part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he looks in the doorway are photos of Ellen that he's probably never seen.
Yeah, when he enters the house, like, the first thing you see as you enter the house is like one of those picture frames that have like a whole bunch of wallet-sized
photos.
Yeah, a whole bunch of wallet-sized photos, and they're just of Ellen.
Mm-hmm. Ellen as a baby, Ellen as, however old she is now.
Yeah, and she's, pretty young.
Very young, yeah.
Not super young, but, young. And, this really reminds me of Frank's pictures. At his mom's house.
Yeah.
Where, he was kind of, dismissive of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then he sees Ellen's pictures on the wall, and then that has meaning to him.
Yeah.
So, that's another dimension to that.
Yeah.
A callback, if you will.
Absolutely. And his eyes are very like, bewildered by these photos that he's, maybe seeing for the first time. And so, Ellen comes in, and he's immediately like, oh, hi, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
She's very quiet. She's probably like 4 or 5, very young. And immediately it's weird.
Yeah.
Because he's like asking this little girl like what to do or what she wants to do. And just there's so much pressure on this little girl.
Yeah.
To like him, that he can be a good dad to her. For 2 hours.
He's trying to make up for all those years he lost in 2 hours is what's going on.
Yeah. So he takes her out to the car, opens the door for her. She's wearing like this like puffy jacket. It's very funny. And he's in the car and he's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, what do you mean? Do you want to do anything or anything at all? And yeah, she's very non-responsive. He's like, okay, well, I'll give you this gift that I bought. So he gives her the gift. She opens it like very gently. It's so cute. And it's a doll, and you can tell that she's like not enthused by it. She's like, oh, thank you. And he's like, wait, you don't like it? I can tell you don't like it. Just come on, say it. Like he's getting like upset at her.
Yeah.
Because
he even begins to yell like at the end of it.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit, but even so.
Yeah.
Raise her voice to her.
And she's like, I already have this doll. And he's like, oh, you already have it. Oh, so you do like dolls. Okay, you like dolls. You just have it. Okay. And then he's like, okay, well, we'll go exchange it. We'll go to the mall. We'll get you a new doll or something.
Yeah.
And so then
the second funniest scene in the movie happens.
Yeah. So the next shot is, him in a toy store with Ellen. And it is maybe a 2-minute long shot.
It's a long shot, and you feel every second of it.
But it's so funny because Ellen, the little girl, is just looking at every single item on this one shelf for like 3 minutes straight. And he's just watching her. You can tell he's like feeling the time slip away.
Yeah.
just watching this little girl inspect every single
Mhm.
toy on the shelf. It's so funny. It goes on for so long.
When you get a toy, that's forever.
That's true.
Okay, so you got to make a smart choice. You know, when
Yeah.
you pick out a toy, that's all. I don't blame Ellen at all.
No, not at all. But like, it's just so funny because he's so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and he's never been with kids before, so he
Yeah.
just doesn't know. You just gotta, wait, and it's just so funny. But then it's funny because like she goes around the shelf and immediately picks out a toy. But I don't know if that was just for the script or what.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they get the toy and then they go to the food court and he's trying to talk to her. And he's like, how's school going? She's like, yeah. Like, do you like any classes? No, I don't like any classes either. We have that in common. My favorite classes were recess and lunch, which are like the most stupid, basic jokes ever. Like, those are complete dad jokes, which is ironic because he's not a dad. Anyways, she asks him, like, why didn't you come to see me before? And all he can say is, I was around, I was busy, I was traveling. Me and my band were trying to make it big. We were going all over the place. I was trying to make it, and I couldn't give up the record deal because I wanted to make it so bad.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, have you made it? And he's just like, sure, for sure I made it. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a really tough scene because he's just trying so hard to like make a good impression on her, but it's just putting so much pressure on her.
Mm-hmm.
He's so needy from this 4-year-old child or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. He's like, oh, you don't like ice cream? You don't like ponies? What do you like? Well, you don't like anything.
Yeah. He's trying to learn everything about her in this 2-hour visit.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the story that I heard on one time on Greg Proop's podcast. There's a British actress called, Sian Phillips, which is like an Irish name. So I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
But anyway, and she had a young daughter. And then she took her young daughter out and Peter O'Toole came by.
Okay.
And then Peter O'Toole came by and visited with her young daughter and, they did stuff and all that other stuff. And then Peter O'Toole, left. And then when Peter O'Toole left, the daughter was like, Mommy, who was that man? And she goes, that was your father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's really the vibe I got at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just very rough. Like he's getting upset at her for not liking ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
it's like eventually she says, because, before she just wouldn't tell him anything.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, he's like, well, if you don't like ice cream, what do you like? And finally she answers, I like cupcakes. He's like, oh, well, I guess I should have got you cupcakes. So, it feels like she is starting to, warm up to him at this point.
But still, he's like beating himself up over not getting cupcake. And it's just like, that's not why you're here. You're not here to get her things you like or she likes. It's just.
Yes, but when you're an absent father,
yes,
what else are you going to do on a visitation?
Yeah. Then he goes in the bathroom and he's like, cleaning himself up.
That scene pissed me off.
Yes.
Because he left her alone outside.
Yes.
And it's like, you don't leave a little girl outside.
No.
You don't do that.
No.
Especially
when you're only in charge of her for 2 hours. Or, I mean, not in general. You don't leave her. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are things you have to do. They have family restrooms.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in most malls where, you can take the whole family in and, be safe.
Yeah.
So that scene, and I'm like, oh no. How dark is this movie going to get now?
It's so anxiety inducing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very.
So then he goes outside and he's like, well, where is she? She's not on this bench I left her on. So he goes into the bathroom, the women's bathroom. He's like, Ellen, are you there? And she's not there. And you just, the dread is mounting. And then he just walks out of the hallway and she's just looking over the railing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, oh, freaking
idiot. Yeah.
But then, yeah. So then he asks her what she wants to do, and she doesn't have an answer. He's like, oh, what about a bowling alley? Do you like to bowl? And she's like, yeah, I like to bowl.
Which is like, he goes, games? Do you like games? Do you like games? You know, do you want to play a game? And she's like, yeah, I like games. I like games. Well, where can we go to play a game? You know, and you know, like this movie, you know, it's an indie movie, and indie movies kind of tend to do filler.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it feels like there's a bit of filler in this. You know, I can't tell if it's filler or if I can't tell if it's supposed to be evocative and symbolic. But it takes a while, and finally they figure out that they're going to go bowling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious that this, like, she's like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
she's tiny, and she's like, yeah, I bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go at the bowling alley. No bumpers.
I know.
No bumpers. The gutters are just eating all of her balls.
Yeah, and you know, he's rolling strikes.
Yes, he rolls a strike. It's so annoying. And then, you know, she rolls it with like both hands and rolls on the ground literally and gets 1 pin.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah, it's fun for him, but it's like she doesn't care. She just gets to roll the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
So then it cuts to them. He's pushing her on a park swing, and you know, she's actually laughing, and he's like playing with her and playing around, and you're like, oh, you kicked my leg on the swing, and she's giggling, and you can tell that they're finally like
Starting to bond.
Yeah, and have a good time. And then he gets the call. It's time for her to come home. He's like, and so yeah, he drives her home. He asks, he in the car, he says like, thank you for giving me a chance, and she says, you're welcome. And he walks her to the door, and he goes back out to the car, and he's crying, and he looks very cold, but he's driving away, and he's crying. He doesn't know where. And then he goes back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
He circles back, and he's outside her window, looking through her window as she's playing piano, because she had a piano lesson.
Hold on.
Oh yeah,
her piano lesson is her sitting in her room, tapping at like a keyboard at sheet music.
Yes.
You know, so it's not like her piano lesson was, you know, with an actual like tutor or anything like that, you know, which is very interesting, you know.
I got maybe the impression that maybe she'd already had the tutor she was practicing afterwards. But maybe that was just me. I don't know.
Well, the impression I got is that they made up the piano lesson as an excuse to only let her stay with him for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it.
That's fair. Yeah. So he's watching her through the window, and he starts knocking, and he's like, Ellen, let me in. It's cold out here. So she's about to walk towards her other door to go get her mom, and he like yells for her and basically begs her to let him, you know, come in the house. So she lets him in, and it's just like it's so uncomfortable because you don't know what he's gonna do. Like it's so
well. I mean, it's almost like, you know, nothing good can happen from him coming inside.
Absolutely nothing.
You know,
this is how people get kidnapped. This is how people get killed.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this also like breaks the terms of like the rules.
Yeah.
You know, almost like he could lose everything, you know, because he does this.
Yeah.
You know. But it also kind of shows like his desperation at this point. You know, it's like he realizes like he's starting to understand what he gave up, you know, when he decided to become a deadbeat dad and, you know, pursue his music. And you know, not only that, but like convince, you know, his wife to keep the baby instead of, you know, getting the abortion that she wanted. You know, there's also that aspect of it, you know, as well. You know, and at this point, it's like finally starting to hit him, and so you feel that desperation.
Yeah. He's desperate. He comes in and he sits down and he's like, I was driving around and I didn't know where to go. Couldn't think of anywhere to go.
So I come here. Yeah.
And he's like, well, what are you playing? And she says, for release, which I believe is, you know, translated to, you know, for Elise, which I think is interesting.
Oh, interesting.
For Ellen, for Elise.
Absolutely.
Anyways, he was like, oh yeah, that's a really hard one to play, but you're doing a really good job. And she was like, no, I'm not. He was like, I couldn't do that one when I had trouble learning that piece. I also play piano.
Well, that's a really cool thing because it's like, you know, you start to learn that they're bonding over music.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's almost as if like if he stayed with her,
Mm.
maybe he could have taught her music
Mm-hmm.
and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that, he's her daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like genetics, are passed. It's passed down that, musical talent is passed down, I
Yeah.
think. And it's just, it's weird because he realizes that, this is his actual daughter too.
Mm-hmm.
But he still wants basically her approval.
Yeah.
He wants her to make him feel good about being a terrible person.
Well,
and leaving.
I mean, like he wants to be her dad now. Is like, that's kind of what's really going on.
Mhm.
He wants to be her dad now. He's now ready to be her dad, even though he didn't put that time and effort for it when he should have, when he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And then she drops the bomb.
Yeah, I can't call you dad. My mom's getting married, and she wants me to call him dad.
Yeah.
And well, he asks her also, like, I want to know how you feel about me.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. It's a hard thing to ask a 4-year-old. Oh, I like the gift you gave me.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you have a funny hair or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, I think what it is like he's trying to find out if like. So with this movie, what's been happening in this movie is like he's kind of been fighting to be her dad, is what it is. And I think at this point he's like, should I fight more? Should I try to get involved more at this point? Should I try to be your father at this point from now on? Because that's what some, deadbeat dads do.
Yeah.
They try to, start a relationship when it's easier for them to do so.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it sounds judgmental about, fathers at this point, because I mean, you never know what a person's situation is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but you have a responsibility when you bring someone into the world.
That's true. That's true. But it's also, not everybody's able to fulfill those responsibilities for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And, this guy, he's, I think I don't think he's like a full piece of shit. He's kind of a piece of shit. He's a musician. He's a musician who's a father. I mean,
I think he's a full piece of shit who has some empathetic qualities. He's not, he's not like Satan himself, or he's not Hitler,
Yeah.
But
he is selfish, and
he's manipulative, and he's egotistical.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But
it's also like, he wanted to pursue his music. His music was so important to them. But it's like, if that's the case, it's like, it's almost like, what makes him worse? Convincing his wife to not get the abortion when they were young and they couldn't support having a child, or, having the child and then being a deadbeat dad. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. That makes it, that's a very complicated part of this movie.
Yeah.
Which makes it great.
Yeah.
So
then he starts crying, and he's like, I just want to do what's best for you. And it's like, do you really? I don't know. I don't necessarily believe it, but I also don't not believe it.
I think what he means by that is like, you know what, you're better off without me in your life. That's what's going on there.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of this movie called Fetching Cody with Jay Baruchel. He voices he voices the lead character, and he was in Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nick Cage.
Oh yeah, the guy who's like with a voice.
Yeah. And that movie has a that theme. You're better off without me. Even though I love you, you're better off without me than with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is probably the best scene in the movie. The most touching scene in For Ellen is him realizing that he isn't going to make her life better by being in it, or trying to be her dad. So he asks her, well, can you play me a song? And so she sits down and she starts playing like maybe 3 or 4 notes of Fur Elise. And he goes to the window, opens it up, and he looks back, and she stops playing, but we only see him. And yeah, he leaves and he closes the window, and that's the end of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah, that's kind of the climax of the movie,
mm-hmm.
and then we get to the
denouement.
Yeah, denouement. Yeah.
Yeah, so he tells his lawyer, "I'm ready to sign." He goes and signs the papers really quick. I mean, he doesn't really say anything to Frank. It's very much like, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. And so he's driving to his hotel, and like a person like startles him and almost like hits the car, or maybe slaps the side of the car or something. Like he freaks out, and it's his girlfriend from wherever he's from. She's like, "Oh, I just wanted to surprise you. I just rode in on the bus." And he's like, "What? I told you I didn't want you to come. What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you for doing this, and for signing these papers. I know it's hard." And he's just not ready to talk to anyone at the moment, and definitely didn't want to see her at all.
Yeah.
So they're in the hotel room, and they spend the night together.
Well, one of the things she says is, think of all the things we can do now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you're not, married, we can.
And they have money,
Mm-hmm.
and he has no more rights to his daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it cuts to the next day, and he wakes up, and he wakes her up and tells her he's going out for a pack of cigarettes. He's like, "Do you want anything?"
A little too on the nose here.
Yeah, it's very on the nose. She says, "No, I don't want anything." And so he goes out, and he's smoking a cigarette. I couldn't tell if he'd already gone and gotten them and then come back.
Yeah.
But he's outside in the parking lot smoking a cigarette, and it's just like this long, lingering close up of him smoking a cigarette. And the snow is really coming down. It's a really cool shot. It's very heavy snow, and he just looks off into the distance, and then we cut and we see a semi truck sort of looping around in this gas station, or the other side of the hotel, and then we just see, Joby book it towards the direction of the semi, just sprinting.
Now, throughout the entire movie, this entire movie is made up of close-up shots.
Yeah.
And like, this is the one like full wide shot in the entire movie, and it's Joby, running through the snow to get to this tractor trailer, a big rig truck, before it leaves, so it can hitch a ride.
Yeah, he just pounds on the door, like opens the door, and you can see he's talking to the guy for a second, then just jumps in.
Yeah, but it's a static shot, so we don't see the close up of it. We just see it from a far distance.
Very far.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful shot.
Mm-hmm.
And the truck just pulls away into the distance.
Yeah.
And very slowly we pan with it, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. Which, makes this a very interesting movie to compare and contrast to with Liverpool.
Yes. I feel like we took so long to get to this point. It's hard to analyze it now. We don't have much time, I feel, but yeah, it's such a comparison to Liverpool. And I actually was thinking about changing the movie today, because I didn't want to just do a streak of like, lonely male toxic figures who are just, selfish and,
or, just seeing how depressing, rural places full of snow are.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But it's people coming into people's lives. Wow, that is crazy how similar they are.
Yeah.
Because in Liverpool, he comes into his daughter's life, and I guess it's probably his daughter, and he's just passing by just to see if people are alive, and leaves just as quick as he came.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But there's also like a ton of contrast here. There's no dialogue in Liverpool. A lot of what happens is dialogue. And for Ellen, it has comedy in it.
Yeah.
There's nothing funny in Liverpool.
Nothing. That's true. There's absolutely nothing funny.
Yeah. So you truly can make contrasts and comparisons, between the two movies for sure. Even though they're like similar on like so many levels.
Yeah.
So
they are. But yeah, I mean, that's the end of it. It's a very lonely movie.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Well, I don't know if. Well, I think Liverpool was a lonely movie.
Yeah.
I don't think For Ellen is like a lonely movie. It's more like spiritual isolation.
Yeah.
You know, because he's surrounded by people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's with people like, you know, most of the movie, but he's in a place he shouldn't be with people he shouldn't be around. You know, they're not his people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know that's kind of where we go back to, you know, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You know, he's a musician, you know, he needs to be on tour, you know, that's what he wants to do. And so I think, like, you know, that's one of the big conflicts is, you know, and we kind of talked about that with Liverpool a bit, you know, that whole, you know, tradition versus modernity
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. I don't think that's so much the case in For Ellen.
Mm-mm.
I think it's more of a case of, you know, his, well, I mean,
I think it's responsibility
yeah,
because even he can't even stick with his girlfriend,
yeah,
and he cheated on his girlfriend with this other random girl at the bar.
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, kind of the thing that I get is, you know, because he's because he's a musician, you know, you know, a lot of creative people, you know, they kind of have a gypsy mentality
Mm-hmm.
where, you know, they're never settled in one place. And, you know, I don't mean, you know, just physically. I also mean like with the people they're around, with their girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
with their creative pursuits. You know, creative people need to be creative. They need energy. They need to move. They need to keep going. They need to keep doing new things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, you know, he wasn't meant to be a dad.
No.
Is a thing.
Yeah. And he runs away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, physically runs away.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this movie is pretty much about.
Yeah.
I think we covered it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably talked too much, but
Yeah, it's fine.
podcast is for, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, listeners, I guess that's it. And, you know, at least you guys know that we'll be leaving you now.
Yes.
And yeah, so check out our next episode.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, until then, take care, guys. All right, bye.
I'm going to sprint away now and find a truck.